Hey, it's Christine from Storyworthy. Today on the show, comedian and podcaster Jeff Dwoskin talks about serving on a jury.
You grow up being told only idiots end up on jury duty. You have to be smart enough to get out of jury duty. The perception that you have from the jury of the whole picture of what's happening does all play together. So if you have the loving family, that's a positive thing. And then the other thing that's really important, if you ever are accused of anything, never go on the stand.
Today on the show, comedian and podcaster Jeff Dwoskin talks about serving on a jury. Stay close.
Hey, it's Jeff Dwoskin, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show or a new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys had a chance to listen to the show last week with comedian Avi Lieberman. Avi is one of these guys who I've been trying to get on for years, but frankly, he's never in the country. He lives often in Israel, and then he travels extensively. In fact, his story was about getting in and out of Russia during COVID, because Avi Lieberman, no family, no wife. I mean, he has family, but no wife, no kids. He sees COVID as an opportunity to stay in some of the world's best hotels because nobody's traveling. So it's a great story. He talks about staying in this fabulous place in Kiev, but at the end of the day, it's all about, COVID, of course. Yes, he had COVID, but then he had the antibodies, and that's why he felt confident to travel. But anyway, you guys go back. Listen to Avi Lieberman. He's a super smart guy, and also, just like I said, a guy I've been really wanting on the show. And after you hear the show, you will know why. Great guy. But don't go anywhere today, you guys, because today I'm here with another great guy named Jeff Dwoskin. He is a comedian and a podcaster out of Detroit, Michigan. And we met, where did we meet, Jeff?
We met on my podcast.
Yeah, we met on your... No, I know, but we didn't see each other at Podcast Movement or anything, did we?
No, we have a mutual friend, Paul Lander. And he's like, you got to talk to Christine. She's super famous. And
is that what he said?
Yeah, he's like,
so he's also a liar.
He's like, she's got the biggest podcast in the world, and she's talked to Podcast Movement. And I was like, wow.
It's funny, Jeff, and you've been podcasting for quite a while now as well. Your show, Live from Detroit, The Jeff Dwoskin Show. By the way, great title. So simple, but nobody really does it.
I struggle with the title. Like, sometimes I think maybe it's hard to come up with art for the title. You know what I mean? And like they try to tell you like the art is so important, which it is. But every time I come up with a different title, 500 people have that title, and I can't understand. So I don't know. If I was famous, it'd be easier.
Yeah, no, I really like the logo because it just looks like the David Letterman show or the Johnny Carson show. You've got that cityscape, and it just looks like lights, camera, entertainment. Doesn't it? I mean, I like it. I think it's I think it says a lot. It's a straightforward talk show with comedians. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, I enjoy doing it. I love it. I think. I added the Live from Detroit part to sort of like give the idea that it is humorous show, and I do love doing it. I remember when I interviewed you, because you speak on interviewing. I remember being so nervous to interview you because you were like the interview expert, and I was just so I like really tried to do a lot of. I read your book. I did everything. I came to the table hard, and I was like.
I think maybe I'll write an interviewing book as well. I think I could do that, actually, now that I think of it.
You should. And I think we got to one point where you're like, Jeff, I think we're done. I mean, it was like an hour in, and we're like...
That's right, because you wanted to go on, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think we need to do any more. Well, we can do a part two.
Oh, so hey, funny. So, the thing you mentioned about Avi Lieberman traveling and getting good hotel deals, the best deal I ever got, and I know if anyone listens to our conversation on my podcast, not to bring up Disney, but I'm bringing up Disney. We went to Disney after 9/11, not immediately after, but shortly after. They had deals like you wouldn't believe. Like the food plan, it was unbelievable. You got appetizer, tips, everything. I mean, it was so much food. They were just giving stuff away to get you there. It's after incidents, it's the best time to travel.
So it's true. But when after 9/11, so you're down there, and if you would see it on the news, would you be like enraptured watching, or would you be like, turn it off, I'm getting a deal?
Well, it was months later. So it was like,
I'm just thinking
we weren't like,
no,
on the 12th, I wasn't like, come on, kids, we're going to Disney.
Daddy's got an idea. Yeah, that's what I mean. So today you bring forth a topic, jury duty, and I just finished jury duty about a month ago here in LA, and all it required was checking in each night to the jury duty page, and every night it said, "You are not needed. You are not needed." So it was like the mantra of my life. You are not needed. You are not needed. No, but in this case, it was very exciting. So then on Friday, I checked in on Thursday night. They said, you are not needed, and you've completed your jury service for 1 full year.
Oh.
So that was the easiest jury duty I ever did.
Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes they don't. They oversample.
Yeah.
And they never know what they're going to actually need.
I've gone to jury duty at least 10 times in LA, and I've never been chosen. But I'm saying, like, this time it wasn't even, you didn't have to go anywhere. You just logged in. So that was cool.
That's technology.
I am anxious to hear your story about jury duty because it must be juicy or you wouldn't bring it to us. But let me just tell you one quick story about when I had to take the witness stand. And I was a kid. I was like 20 years old, and I saw this woman assaulted in the street. And she actually was like punched and knocked down, and her purse was stolen, and she had amnesia. So she didn't remember the incident, and I happened to be there. So let's just fast forward to now we're at the trial. There's 2 kids on trial. One is 15 and one is 18. And now it's my turn to like go up and say what I saw. And so I'm like nervous, and I wore like fancy clothes that made me uncomfortable, but whatever. But I get up, my 20-year-old, I just go up with all the confidence in the world, and I say what I saw. And then I walk back down to it's not the pews, it's in the courtroom, the benches. And I look down, and my zipper was completely undone. I thought I was so sassy and I was so smart. And I did. I spoke well. One kid got 8 years in prison, and the other kid got just like juvenile hall because he was only 15.
Look at you, making the streets safe.
Well, that's what I do. I had a cape on.
You're like a superhero.
So I am very excited to hear about your jury duty. I'm very excited to hear about your jury
Jury duty? Let's not overhype it. It is just a jury duty story.
I'm excited about your duty, Jeff.
It can't be that great.
But I want to also say that we were also talking about another story in your life that is pretty prevalent, and that's about your college roommate killing his girlfriend.
No, he
can
killed
you just
himself.
tell us that? Because it was... Oh, wait. So go ahead.
No. So, when I went to college, now it's different. Now my daughter just... my oldest has graduated, my youngest just went through this, but now they get on Facebook groups. They do, they build relationships. And I remember my daughter, my youngest daughter, was like, I think I found someone to room with. They would talk every night for 8 hours. And like, did you ask? No, I didn't ask yet. I got to ask. So they would build these relationships, right?
Wow,
and then
that's
they would
nice.
connect. There's like all these connect things where you can get to know the people.
Sure.
When I went to college, you got a letter.
Right. It said, this is your roommate.
This is your roommate. And I'll just say his name was Chris. But we won't say his last name. But, and So Chris was basically, as it turns out, anti-Semitic. I'm Jewish. And it turns out he perhaps didn't like Jews, which was odd because his girlfriend was Jewish. I'm just giving you some of the facts as I understood them at the time. Went to school in Wisconsin. So I guess they had gone together before. And so I'm sitting here living with him. Now here's an idea. So I'm in the room. It's, you know how small these dorm rooms are, right? My friend Tim at the time comes into the room. It's just the two of us in the room. And he turns and he opens my roommate's desk drawer, just to mess with me. I'm like, dude, that's not mine. Shut the drawer. He shuts the drawer. He opened and shut the drawer. That was it. Later that day, he's back in the room. He's effing with me. My friend Tim opens the drawer again. There's a note in the drawer. Did you enjoy going through my stuff? Okay.
Wow.
Insane, right? So
do you think he had a camera or like threads or like strings set up so that he could catch you?
he must have had something. So, I mean, there must have been like something there. It was weird, but nothing was touched. My friend was just messing. And so this guy would get on the phone, and admittedly, we would sit there. It was oddly entertaining, where he'd kind of just do this show where he was yelling at her or doing stuff, going crazy. He would go crazy. Anyway.
To his girlfriend.
And so it was just a whole kind of insane thing. My suite mates, one of them was like a drug dealer. It was bad. The truth of the matter is, the single opens up with the RA, and I bolt. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I'm there, and next thing we hear word that he had gone to Wisconsin. He shot his girlfriend, and then they found him dead in a hotel room.
Whoa.
Okay, now the girl is fine and alive today, married, has kids. She's fine. From what I understand happened, and again, this is 18-year-old me just hearing the story and now repeating it, but she ran and he shot her. And if you can picture like the back of your neck, there's like a soft spot, and it like went in her neck and out her mouth. Okay? Because my dad knew the guy that worked on her mouth, did some of this oral surgery. So she was fine, a couple inches up or whatever, boom. And then they found him gone, and he killed himself in his hotel room. And so it was funny because everyone started calling me, seeing if I was getting all A's or not. It's like, oh, you moved out, you just missed that. And I'm like, no, that doesn't really happen. It's not real.
Wait a minute. In other words, people were saying if you're his roommate, they'll feel sorry for you.
Well, if your roommate kills himself, so apparently you're supposed, the rumor, the college rumor is like your roommate dies, you get all A's.
No, I didn't hear that.
Oh, well, at least in my made up circle. I guess that's like a home rule. Like, in Monopoly, you can make up your own rules.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting now looking back on that moment, how horrible it was even then, but when the parents came to get all his stuff, now being me with a kid in college and replaying that in my head, it's so devastating. It's so sad. I don't know what was wrong with him. It was like a friend of mine brought up recently, and he says to me, he says, so what therapy did you go through, Jeff, afterwards? I'm like, what do you mean? I never talked to anyone about this. He goes, Jeff, you lived with a murderer. You live with a man capable of killing someone and himself, and that never occurred to you that maybe I'm like, I guess no.
Yeah, but there wasn't therapy like that then.
No, it didn't even, I mean, I don't even remember talking to my parents about it.
Right. I mean, nobody said anything. There was so much unsaid when we were younger. And I don't know, I feel so weird about getting older because when I was in college, I saw my age, people like the parents as so old and so out of touch. But I think they were.
Yeah, I mean, now, like, parents go up to college every weekend, every day. I mean, they're always with their kids. I remember my parents came up like 3 times, maybe. It was like, and that was normal to me. I mean, because you're off on your own.
Well, exactly. And they didn't ask for parents to volunteer at schools. They didn't ask for involvement from parents.
Right. So the funny thing is that my original suite mate, I left my key in my mailbox once, and he stole the key and robbed me in my new room. And that actually messed me up more than the guy killing himself, because when someone goes into your space and removes, and takes and steals from you, it's like it's a weird violation. You know what I mean? I mean, for a decade, I would walk into a room and scan everything. But the funny thing is nowadays, like when someone's like, "Ugh, I had the worst college experience," I'm like, "Okay." I go, "I'm going to win, but you go first."
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to win. Yeah, that's something else. It's, I don't know. It's just weird getting older and seeing back how we had no connection to anything. I mean, obviously, no internet, no cell phone. And so it was just such a different experience than now.
Oh, I couldn't even call. Just to give people an idea, I couldn't call my parents if I forgot my code that I had to type into my phone that was connected to the wall, which is how we used to do it, and and like dial in. You know what I mean? So it was like this whole weird. It's all different. So different.
Yeah, well, obviously it's all different, but it is nice to know that kids can at least choose their roommates these days. I'm sure it makes it smoother.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a much nicer process now. It makes it easier. Because a lot of times, like, I didn't know anybody when I went up to that, my school.
Yeah, how would you? Right.
And so, it was just a random thing. So,
what did you get your degree in, by the way?
Marketing. Marketing, and I think originally it was going to be communications, and I ended up with marketing.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, has anybody ever asked you that?
No.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So you do have the podcast called Live from Detroit, The Jeff Dwoskin Show. And it's just interesting because you're a really great podcaster and you get a lot of wonderful guests. In fact, I got some of my guests from you, like Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskin is, of all the guests I've had, tell me if you've had similar, the most cred I've ever gotten was Carol Baskin, like, especially with like my kids. They'll be like, "Oh, my dad podcast, who?" And I'll list off the people, and then they'll turn and go, "Carol Baskin, you talked to Carol Baskin."
Yeah, no, that was super fun. She also spoke so well and was such a good guest, at least for me and for you. I heard her on your show, and she's just the opposite of what was portrayed in Tiger King.
That's why I enjoyed talking to her so much, because she stands for so much good stuff, and what she thought that Tiger King was supposed to be, which was very anti, tiger cubs and all that kind of stuff to protect the species, and what it became. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, and then
she got caught up in like the craziest fucking world of people. And that guy, by the way, Joe Exotic, he's dying. He has advanced prostate cancer, and they moved him out of prison to a medical hospital jail.
Oh, really? I did not know that. I didn't watch Tiger King 2. Such a money grab for Netflix. He could be dead by the time
this airs.
Netflix should be ashamed of themselves. It was funny because in preparing to interview Carol, I rewatched the episode where they kind of introduce her as the villain.
Right.
And I realized like how manipulative the episode was. And like how much I got sucked in. I mean, we were all like COVID crazy at the time, right? And so we all loved it. I'm not denying that I didn't love it at the time. But in rewatching it, I was like, oh my God, this is insane. I fell for this hook, line, and sinker. And it's just horrible. I mean, their best person against her was like a guy who cleaned the pool or something.
They would like slow down the film when she came on screen, and they would change the music. And then all of his videos, like his actual music videos, were so absurd because all of his gay lovers, and then people didn't have teeth, people were missing limbs, and he's mouthing all those words. It was just such a crazy, the whole thing was surreal.
Right. And it turns out he wasn't even singing those songs. That's not even him.
No, of course not. So the other guest I got from you was Dee Dee Pfeiffer, actress Dee Dee Pfeiffer. I really enjoyed speaking with her as well. Funny girl.
Dee Dee was a hoot. Yeah, she was funny.
And then you've just had on, I'm just really impressed with your list of guests, considering that here you are, live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. I'm just impressed because you're able to reach out and get these top guests. So obviously, you're good. You're good at what you do. And I want to know who describes you as the Midwest Lounge Letterman. Who said that? Because I see that in your website.
My friend Brian Green said that to me once, and I was just like, all right.
I like it. No, you do. You have to just label yourself, and then you just say, yeah, I'm the Midwest Lounge Letterman. Who said that? What's the difference? It's who I am.
Sounds like it could be an insult, but maybe it's not. And so I love Letterman, so I took it as a positive. You know, a lot of and I'm sure you're the same way with guests. People ask all the time, how'd you get? And I'm like, I asked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's more than just asking. You have the website and the social media to back it up. You know, you're current, you stay on top of things. They're not going to go to your Twitter and see a stale page. They're not going to see, under construction on your website. So, I mean, they do some vetting to make sure you're on the up and up. And, that's 99% of the gig.
Right. And sometimes it's timing too, right? So it's like, oh yeah, I have a book coming out, or I'm doing a tour or a show, so sometimes that will kind of go, oh yeah, we'll talk to you. Can we talk about that? Like when I reached out to Ed Asner, and they're like, well, he has a book. And will you talk about the book? Oh, what's the book about? His life. Yes, I will. You know what I mean?
Did he grope you?
No.
Oh, he groped me, right?
Ed Asner groped you?
Yeah.
No, we weren't in the same room.
Well, we were, and he was in a wife beater, like 89 years old, in a filthy house with like just shit all over the place. 7 Emmys just strewn about the living room. The first thing he said to me, I've told this story before. Story-worthy listeners know this, but I'm going to tell them again. They'll laugh. Dave Bichek, you're laughing, right? Porfirio, my friend, are you laughing? Remember what happened? Ed Asner, first thing he says to me is, well, don't you have a nice rack? And I said, nice to meet you.
There's something
and
about...
everybody laughed, like his PR person was there, and also his helper. He'd been with the same male helper for 20 years. And they were both there, and we all have to go it's so funny because he's old and he's a misogynist.
Right? It's like they think it's okay because...
Oh, yeah, of course it's okay.
I'll be gone soon. What are you going to do?
I know. But anyway, I am impressed with your show. Congratulations on Live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. And let's get over to your story here about jury duty. But before we do, I wanted to remind everybody that we are playing Story Smash, the storytelling game show. But unfortunately, we don't have a December show at the Improv. We were supposed to, but that is Christmas Day, and they're closed on Christmas Day. So we are back at the Hollywood Improv January 23rd. I know, it's hard to wait that long. I don't want to wait that long, but here we are. Check out StorySmashShow.com for more information. And of course, you can always follow Story Smash over on Instagram to see all the show pictures, which is lots of fun. All right, you guys, he's here right now, Jeff Dwoskin. You've heard him talking. He's a comedian and a writer, and you really have gotten together a wonderful podcast like we talked about, live from New York, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. You guys can find that over at jeffisfunny.com, and then you can also follow Jeff over there on the Twitter at Jeff Dwoskin Show. That's how that goes. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together. Oh, wait, I also wanted to say about the show. I'm sorry. I have a couple more things to say. You've won some awards, like you were the winner of the top 25 indie podcasts in 2020 from Indie Pods United. I don't know who that was, but I wish I was in that running.
I was fortunate when some people were doing, these indie groups were doing it, and I submitted, and they had all these judges, and they liked what I was doing, and it was nice. And then this other group called the Snobbies, and they're actually just starting up a new one that they're going to, I think, do in February and April. And so I won a few awards there as well. And
Yeah,
so
the Snobby Awards, it was their first annual, and they gave you everything. They gave you Best Comedy Podcast, Best Interview Podcast, and Podcaster of the Year. Who is in the Snobby Awards? Who is that? Your mom?
no, it's run by it was a network, and it is run by Mick Manhattan, and they got like a bunch
I
of
bet that's his last name.
yeah, it's not his real last name. That's just like his thing. But like they got a bunch of he didn't judge it. They got a bunch of judges and they submitted it, and then I just like submit like 3 episodes or something like that I wanted them to listen to, and it's funny because like I can't re-listen to my shows. I don't know if you ever re-listen to your old shows, but
Not the really old ones. The really old ones, I don't want to hear it. But I listen to the current ones.
I moved to an ad network recently, so I had to switch my RSS feed. So I had to go in and kind of put some ad markers and stuff on the show. And so I listened to my very first episode. I'm encouraging no one to do so. But it bothered me so much, I downloaded it, re-edited it, and put it back up.
Oh my God, Jeff,
it wasn't so much the content.
hilarious.
It was just like, I couldn't stand myself. I'd be like, hi, I'm Jeff Dwoskin. What's going on? How you doing? I'm exaggerating the deep breath sound, but like, you know what I mean? But I was just like, and I'm thinking to myself, I made a list of everyone that told me how great it was. And I called them and I'm like, what was wrong with you? What was wrong with you? It was funny because the way I do the show now, which I'm much more comfortable now after 80 some episodes, but in my head, that is how I sounded in my first episode, but not when I actually listened to it.
Right. Well, that's why people starting podcasts should just do 5 or 10 before they actually release them and listen back, because you might just re-record.
Well, everyone was like, I think at the time, me putting that out, they're like, oh, this is good. And then you just get
exciting.
better. Because you also have to just do it. You have to just do it.
Everybody starts from zero.
Right.
There's no way to just jump on top. Although some of the celebrities would make me think that, but I don't think.
But they come in with deals. They come in with already 10,000 plus hours of mic work and voice work, and they're way ahead of us. But we've caught up. You're like in your 11th year, so we should kudos you also, right?
Thank you, Jeff.
I like at the beginning, hey, if you're new to the show and you've got 700 hours, catch up on Storyworthy.
All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Jeff Dwoskin.
This is nerve-wracking. So you go, okay, so jury duty. So the reason I just wanted to kind of dive into this is, one, serving jury duty, which was a long time ago, and I've only done it actually once. I've gone to it a few times, but I've actually served once. And it was like one of those life-changing experiences where you realize, oh, wow, I've grown up sheltered. There are people that know things different than me, and that you need to be respectful of the opinions around you, and that you don't know everything, regardless of how smart you think you are. There's points of view that exist that are outside of however you grew up and however your parents raised you, that aren't wrong and are there, and you have to just kind of be able to bring them in. It's something that, as in my corporate life where I was, leaders of groups and stuff, once that happened, it sort of made you aware of, just being able to make sure that everyone's voice is heard and everything kind of comes together. The other thing that kind of triggered this story a bit is recent high-profile court cases where everyone was playing jury from home. And it's interesting because, when you have people from Congress quote tweeting things saying, not guilty, it's like the reality of any situation, even if you've been in anything that has to do with the press at all, in general, what's said or you hear is a third of the story, if it's that third is even accurate at all, right? So when you're sitting there, it's the process of legal juryness or whatever you call it. It's really kind of crazy. It's insane how they set it up, right? You grow up being told only idiots end up on jury duty, right? You have to be smart enough to get out of jury duty. Picture the recent things that happened in the press and how invested you were. Now think, oh, gee, maybe the dumbest people in the world were on that jury, because that's that's what we expect. It's crazy, right? It should be the opposite. Like, you should want to be on jury duty. You should want the smartest people there to keep the streets safe, like Christine did when she put that child away for 8 years earlier in this episode, right? So, but I mean, jury duty in itself is like totally problematic, right? I looked it up because I couldn't remember. I used to joke, hey, jury duty is great if you need a way to make $30 quick. You know what I mean? And it's like, so in Michigan, you get paid $12.50 a day. I looked up California, it's $15. For some reason, Connecticut, South Dakota is $50, and New York and Wyoming is $40. Now, this is also outside of whether your job also, pays you or gives you leave or you have to take, right? So the entire system is built on the whole idea that we're going to bring someone in and distract them from their life and not even accurately compensate them for it, right? It's like we're going to give them nothing because it's the right. It's a jury. Yeah, it's your right to do it. So I was curious, like, why do we even do jury systems? So I looked it up. It's because the Greeks did it. So we're maintaining the traditions from 507 BCE to like still maintain jury today. So I remember like my grandfather would love to have gotten on jury duty. He lived to be in his 70s and never got picked. I got picked at least 3 or 4 times. And coincidentally, I've also gotten 3 or 4 speeding tickets. So they say it's random. But I don't believe it's random. Nobody can tell you, like, you get a speeding ticket and a month later, you're like, oh, we've selected you for jury duty. Oh, well, that's convenient, isn't it? So anyway, so I remember getting off jury duty once, and I feel guilty about it to this day because it's, again, I thinking to myself, it was a sexual assault case. The guy looked horribly guilty, which is horrible to say, but I kind of mentioned, oh, my grandmother had been assaulted, and I don't think I can separate my feelings. And so they excused me. And it was one of those things where it was like, I feel guilty about it because that probably wasn't true because it was like a great grandma, and then no one's recording this, right? And and so I feel guilty because like, oh, I could have helped get that guy. But I was much younger at the time, and I was like, oh, I have to get out of here because if I'm on jury duty, everyone's going to think I'm an idiot for not being able to get off jury duty. So flash forward to this one time, I'm now on jury duty. I get selected, and I'm there, and it's interesting because, again, when you're watching something with 11 other people, right, it seems pretty straightforward, right? So you think of it like if you're watching a show with someone or you're watching anything, there's me and 11 other jurors. We're watching an entire trial at exactly the same time, unfiltered, and then we go into the jury room and we're about to discuss it. 12 people saw 12 different things. It's crazy, right? And it's like, and everyone thinks they saw and heard the correct thing. You know what I mean by that? It's like, yeah, sure. The way you just filter and interpret it. And so the first thing you do is there's jury foreman. You get to be a jury foreman. It's an elected position. I ran, I won. Based primarily, I guess, on my knowledge of CSI. I was a big CSI fan.
Did you all have to like stand up and say why you wanted to be the foreman?
I don't even remember if I think I ran. It was just maybe I said something and then they vote real quick. But here's the cool thing about being jury foreman, and anyone who ever gets to be on jury duty, you want to be jury foreman. So if you're going to have to sit in that room for as long as you're going to have to sit, hopefully a day, and hopefully you don't get stuck in one of these, multi-day, 30-day things. But if you're going to be there, you might as well be the king, right? So, okay. Because once you're a jury foreman, everyone would look to me. It was really crazy. I remember the feeling, like I was like, all these 12 people, like I am now their leader. And like they immediately accepted me. It was a weird feeling.
It's funny.
It was just really, really weird. And, but it's great. But I always tell everyone, definitely run, because you don't want to just sit there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the case was this guy in Pontiac, Michigan, which is not the greatest city, but not, at like 3 a.m, let's say, runs a red light. Cops pull him over, and in the back seat is a duffel bag, and in the duffel bag are clothes that roughly fit him, a framed photo of him and his girlfriend, as I recall, a shoebox full of cocaine, and his business card, which had clearly been used to, I don't know the phrase because I've never done drugs. What's it called when you use it to make the lines? You know what I'm talking about, though, right? Where you go, and then before you go, right, snort. And I don't know what the technical term is for it, but
They were cutting up cocaine with the edge of the card.
Sure. Okay, that's a more elegant way to say it. Sure. And it was his business
At least I
card.
didn't snort.
That was it. That was so, because if I just went, then it would sound like it was just an audio distraction, right? But if I went over the top for your listeners. Sorry.
You're a giver.
I'm a giver. Okay. So, and there's a gun. And the gun makes it exciting because the gun takes it to a whole nother level of what you can prosecute for. But here's the thing. The guy goes, hey, that's not mine. Right? And now the prosecutor has to prove it is his. Yeah. And it's like, so now if you picture like what's happening today or, the recent trials, and you go, well, it was a picture of him and his girlfriend and the clothes fit. It's his. He's guilty. But that's not how it works, right? They give you this whole list of things, like ways that you have to, the burden of proof, so that you have to prove that it's his and connect them and do all these things. It sounds weird saying it out loud, but like it was difficult.
In other words, you can't just say, well, it's all your shit in your car with your business card. So yeah, it is yours.
Right. It wasn't
You're
on
in the
him.
picture.
It was in the back seat. So it was like anyone could have put that there. It doesn't mean he was literally,
that's ridiculous.
And so, so one is like, it's bad idea, one, to like at 2 a.m. drive with stuff like that in the car. And two, just make sure you have better friends if they are going to just stash it on you. So it's an interesting thing, the whole trial process, because one of a couple of things that happened where his friends came to watch the trial. And if you have friends that are of questionable visible nature, I don't know. If you have friends that look like they also commit crimes, don't have them come, because while the perception that you have from the jury of the whole picture of what's happening does all play together, right? So if you have the loving family, that's a positive thing. This is also non-legal jury advice if you're ever on trial. And so, so that played into it. And then the other thing that's really important, if you ever are accused of anything, never go on the stand. Never defend yourself, ever. This guy, as I look back, we would have had to let him go, because they made enough of a case that could have not been his, that we couldn't just tie it all together. It through the burden of proof and the literal things that you have to prove, it didn't meet it until he got on the stand and tipped all of us in that direction. So whoever his attorney was definitely deserves to be sued and not practice law. So it was a whole kind of insane thing when you kind of think about that stuff. And so we end up convicting him of everything. And as jury foreman, you get to read the verdict. So that was cool. What say you? Guilty, guilty, guilty. And so that's nice. So that's another reason to do it. Because, you want to be able to tell the story later. You don't want to be like, I just sat there, So
use this, yeah. So
the interesting thing is the prosecutor comes back into the jury room after and says, hey, ask me any questions you have. You can ask me anything now that it's over. And we said, okay, what didn't we know? Right? He goes, oh, what you didn't know was that he had 1,500 Vicodin in his front pocket. Why didn't you know that? The cop forgot to write it down. Okay. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh my God, a clerical error. And they had the guy not gotten on the stand. This drug dealer would have just gone free. Wow. And
1,500 pills.
It was just like an insane amount, right?
That's
and it's
bizarre.
like, we're clearly, like I have at any given time, 10? What do you have, 15? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just kidding. And, but this was it was insane, like that kind of stuff. But it's scary though, isn't it? It's scary to think that when things happen, that it's that paperwork stage that can cause that's the anchor, that's the bridge to whether this person eventually may or may not get off or go free or go to jail, because if they don't do the paperwork right, they always joke and right in police dramas, right? Like, paperwork, I got to do the paperwork. And they're always rushing through it. So it's like all the things in reality that they make fun of or that we're taught to think are like the low level, horrible things are so important, right? And so it's like, it's crazy like to think about like how much you have to actually focus on details to actually get everything across the board and done. I feel like you have questions.
How did he blow it on the stand?
I think it was just the way he presented himself. It's like, it's interesting because it's like you have to come to when you're hearing a story and it's word against word, how he just came off and explained things, it just didn't make sense. So there was also something where he had like, I guess, a huge wad of cash in his pocket, and the way he explained that, to me, it was like, oh, this guy's got $1,500 in his pocket. But this is where it kind of ties into the other thing. No, the other people are like, no, if he's claiming he's a contractor, he'd never have that much money in his pocket because he would have to do this and this and this and this. And I'm thinking to myself, this Jewish boy just hires contractors. I don't know anything about this. I have no idea. Like, this is like so, like I would never have that insight to know that he was lying about
great.
that.
I mean, in terms of all walks of life and all that.
Right. So, it's just crazy. But from that, it's like, I've always remembered, like, you have to be open to everybody. You have to like listen. You have to kind of take things in. And, it was interesting. I always encourage people who joke about jury duty, like, no, you have to do it. It's like a life-changing experience. It's a really great experience. I don't mean like, maybe like if somebody runs a red light or something, like, it's a boring one, but like a good one where like you really understand what happens when 12 random people that are supposed to be
it's
peers.
like having to stay and discuss things with people at the DMV. It's just random, all walks of life.
Yeah, it's really, it was just
How many
interesting.
days were you there on that trial?
I don't think it was more than 2.
And so did you feel like you became friends with those fellow jury mates?
We still hang out and watch crime dramas to this day.
You're so full of shit. No, but didn't you feel like you made connections? Did you change numbers with anybody?
No. I was probably younger and they were maybe older. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like, I know, part of me was like, I just got to get out of here. I got to go back to work.
Yeah, no, I know. But it's just interesting how it is one little slice of time and then you'll never see those people again.
Juror number 12 and I fell in love and we've been married to this day. We have 2 kids.
Right. So. Yeah, right.
Would that have been a better version?
I like the idea, though, of being the king of the jury room and how all of a sudden they all look to you like, oh, yeah, like you know something. That's funny.
It was great. That's what I'm saying. Like I tell everyone, definitely do jury duty and definitely be jury foreman. It's a great experience. So
And what was the process in the room when you had to go back to deliberate, as it were? Like you were talking, it sounds very casual in ways, like you're just talking with each other.
You would like read, they'd have like the things, like the, I can't remember what they're called, like, item 1,
Points,
and then you would discuss that because each one is its own thing, which is why things can take longer, and then, you kind of wrap it all up and tell them where you felt it was guilty or not guilty or something like that,
And let me ask you, what was your background in, your corporate background? You said marketing?
Yeah, marketing, just digital.
But who did you work for?
At the time, I probably worked for myself. I had one of the first online web development companies. So this was probably late 90s. So
wow, look at you. But I mean, when you went to school, I know you went for marketing, and then what did you become? Like, what was your career, or what is your career? But I know you've got your podcast, but like, what was your, how do you maintain a family?
Right out of college, I was a graphic designer. I was a self-taught graphic designer. I worked at a PR company, and I literally had a room there, and they would feed me work, and I lived 2 miles from my house, and my dad let me live rent-free and keep all the money. He said, as long as you save, you can live here. And so I was working there for like a couple of years. And then what happened was a friend of mine was getting into the internet. There was this thing emerging called the internet. Okay.
Yes, kids, the interweb.
And so having known graphic design, I went to Barnes & Noble, of which time they had 2 books on HTML. That's how you build a web page. I picked one up. Later, there would be like entire aisles, and you could go to school and get degrees on it. I picked one of this book up. I taught myself how to make a web page, how to do the graphics, all that kind of stuff. And then I went to my friend. I said, hey, we should do something here. We started a company called Online Marketing Company. It was bought by a company out of LA, California, called US Web. And then we went public. They bought us just before they went public. And so that was a wild ride. And then the dot-com burst happened. And, ever since then. So I've kind of gone from corporate to having.
So did you make a ton of money in one drop at one point?
Yeah, I mean, at one point where, while it was still, everything was in flux, you couldn't sell during this one particular time. And I mean, we remember we'd be sitting and going, oh my God, I just made more money than everyone I know. And then it'd be like, oh my God, I just lost more money than everyone I know. But it was all on paper, you know what I mean?
That's so stock market, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but it was wild, because it was like, you would get employee stock purchase plan. And so like we could buy it at $6, but it was worth 40. You know what I mean? So I'm telling everyone, I'm like, I don't care if you have to put it on credit card.
Wow.
You buy as much as you can, Yeah. And so it was funny. And then
did you ever get to cash out of any of that, or does that go to retirement funds? Or I'm just asking, when some people made it so big during that period, and then I know a lot of people lost everything, but did anybody ever take a chunk out and say, I'm going to put this $300,000 aside just in case the rest of this shit goes to hell?
That is accurate how you kind of describe it. I remember talking to somebody where he's like, I'm going to wait till the stock hits 21. It was a different company.
Yeah, I know.
And then it tanked and he lost everything. He lost millions. I was fortunate enough that somebody gave me advice during that time, that we had people who were looking out for us. One of the pieces of advice was don't fall in love with love, it's an interesting kind of concept, which is don't get caught up in the feeling that you're feeling right now, because it's not good. Because things can plummet, and then you can't see it. You blind yourself to what's happening.
It's not sustainable.
Right. And so we had financial advisors. My brother and my friend Scott, we were all partners, and they advised us. Like at one point they were doing some stock thing and they allowed us to sell up to 25%. And they're like, sell it and reinvest it. And it ended up being a good thing to do because the stock had gone down and the money we had taken out, we were able to invest and that did well. I mean, I did sell before. I didn't reach, you never reach maximum whatever you can do, but it definitely wasn't bad. And we did get everything out before it did tank. At one point, the CEO started seeing aliens. He was on Dateline, and then there was a couple mergers, and it literally dropped to like 25 cents, like overnight, like
really?
Boom. Yeah. And
he was seeing aliens? What are you talking about?
It was great. He's still an active person. I don't, you could.
Wait a minute. Are you joking?
No. He like claimed he was visited, and then they had just done a merger, and I'm just trying to remember it as I remember it, but like, And like the people that we had merged with, they may have been religious. They didn't like that this was being talked about. It was weird. And it was like, and then it started to go south from there.
And then the stock tanks.
Stock tanked. I remember it tanked.
Crazy.
I'd already been out of it at this point.
Okay, just real quick, and we got to wrap it up. I guess what I'm trying to say, and I'm not trying to get personal, but you brought up the money, or maybe I did. Did you ever just say,
okay, well, you did, but I'm fine
here
with
I
it.
am in Detroit. $500,000, $500,000 is a big ass house in Detroit. Did you ever just get to buy a nice house, as it were?
I have a nice house, but it's not. No, I don't. I never spend that much money on anything. I'm not a guy that spends.
You never could spend it outright and just say, "Now I own this."
I mean, I have a house. I mean, I have a nice house and a nice sub in West Bloomfield, and but it's not. It's a reasonable house.
I guess I don't know. Maybe this is going down
well, I guess what you're asking is I've never been the kind of person like I always believe. I wish I could spend more than I spend. I feel like I need to make sure that I have money. You know what I mean? Like I don't overspend like a celebrity or anything like that. It's important to me to make sure, if anything happens.
You're grounded.
I'm grounded. Like I don't buy fancy
Midwest
cars.
roots.
I don't have fancy cars. I have a nice car.
That's a
but
very
it's not.
fancy looking baseball cap on you have.
I got a fancy. But this cap was $5.
I'm totally kidding.
I'm serious. So I bought a Detroit Tiger. It's where they dumped all the stuff at the end.
I wasn't getting.
No, you're good. I don't mind your question.
I'm not talking about finances like that. I guess what I'm saying is, when I hear somebody made a killing in the internet boom in the late 90s, early 2000s, I'd like to hear somebody tell me a good story. And with that, I bought this house. And then I lost a lot of fucking money. But I still have this house. Or, I would just like to see something tangible. Somebody made a ton of money, and what did they get?
Well, I mean, I got peace of mind. I mean, I've worked in No, but what I mean is I've worked corporate. I've been out of work for a year. You know what I mean? It's like, it's enough that I can get by, and I don't like doing that, but I can always sustain to make sure I'm able to do what I want to do. You know what I mean? I want to do a podcast. I do a podcast.
That's a wealthy person to me.
So. But I don't go crazy with anything. It's not. I don't live a lavish lifestyle.
No, I didn't think you did. I guess I was just.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Jesus, Christine, stop.
Look, this drives you crazy, and I know I told the story on my podcast, which, by the way, our episode is one of my biggest episodes ever. And but when I did get a lot of money, which was actually from when my dad passed away, not from this, but the first thing I did was we went to Disney World and we bought a VIP tour that was like $400 an hour. Now I split it with my cousin, right? But we did it for like 14 hours and they took us from park to park and we just walked in every ride. It was the greatest thing ever. And I had said to my kids during it, don't let anyone ever tell you money can't buy happiness. As we walked by 1,000 people waiting to get into the Avatar ride. Yeah. But that's the kind of thing that I would spend it on, like just something like that.
Yeah, I like it. That makes sense. All right, you guys, we got to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing this jury duty story. It is interesting. One more thing. Why do you think that the friends of the guy who was being charged, why didn't those friends know better than to pull it together in court? Everybody's supposed to kind of look nice. You're not supposed to have your fly down. You're supposed to hold it together. You don't think they knew that?
I'm sure they thought they looked fine.
I see. Well, that's interesting though. Like you said, you're in this jury box and you're looking down as if it's a stage, like it's a theater, and this is happening in front of you, and there's no distractions, and you just focus on that. It's almost like an archaic art form.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun. Make sure you follow Jeff over there on Twitter at Jeff Dwoskin Show, and listen to Jeff Dwoskin Show live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. It really is entertaining. You have some great guests, and all I would say is cut your front a little bit.
I started to a little bit after we talked.
All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of Jeff Dwoskin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
Dad is the smartest guy you know, so give him a gift that's just as smart, like a battery-powered smart doorbell from Google Nest that lets him see what's happening at his door and answer it from anywhere. The Google Nest doorbell is now on special buy for only $129.99 and works on any home. Find the best and smartest gifts for Dad. Feels like Father's Day at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Offer valid through June 19, 2022 at participating U.S. stores and online. Limit 5 per customer.
Dad's Mr. Popular at the JCPenney Father's Day sale. From teas and tech to fragrance and fitness, find cool gifts for every kind of dad. Surprise him with an iTouch Active smartwatch, now $29.99. Score major savings with doorbusters like St. John's Bay Polos, just $7.99, and shorts, $16.99. Plus, shop extended store hours Friday and Saturday. Shopping is back. JCPenney. Offers valid on select styles through 6/19. Some exclusions apply. Doorbusters and smartwatch excluded from coupons. See store or jcp.com for details.